Kang Min-jun was Seoul's most feared billionaire CEO, the man who made grown executives weep. But for 3 years, he'd been hiding a humiliating secret. He was completely impotent, medically broken, couldn't get it up no matter how many Swiss experimental treatments he tried. Then one catastrophic night, his brilliant Nigerian assistant Zeta stumbled into him at an illegal underground club, mascara streaming down her face after catching her boyfriend cheating with her best friend. And when their broken pieces collided in his penthouse, the impossible happened. His dead body roared back to life for one explosive night of raw, desperate passion. She vanished at dawn like a ghost, and he spent 3 years going insane trying to find her, tearing Seoul apart, one bribe at a time. Now she's back, walking through his office doors with 2 3-year-old twins who have his exact face and his cold eyes, but his phone won't stop buzzing. His psychotic ex-fiancée just sent him security footage from that night, with a 50 million won price tag, and 2 other people who should have stayed buried are circling closer, one with a custody lawsuit and another with a knife and nothing left to lose. The glass shattered against the wall, whiskey dripping down like bitter tears. Kang Min-jun didn't flinch. He never did. The most powerful CEO in Seoul, the man who made billionaires tremble, stood alone in his penthouse, staring at the pill bottles lined up on his marble counter, like soldiers mocking him. Viagra, Cialis, experimental treatments from Switzerland. None of it worked. None of it ever worked. He was 32 years old, built an empire before most men finished college, could buy anything, anyone. But he couldn't be a man where it mattered most. The rage that lived in his chest, constant and cold, flared hot tonight. Which is why he did something he never did. He went to the club. Not the sophisticated lounges where deals were made over aged scotch. No. The underground place in Gangnam where the music was too loud and the morals too loose, where he could disappear into the chaos and forget, just for one night, that he was broken. But across the city, someone else was breaking too. Zeta pressed her back against the bathroom stall, mascara streaking down her brown skin, phone clutched in her trembling hands. The photos were still there. Her boyfriend, Michael, 4 years together, 4 years of planning their future, talking about marriage, about the life they'd build, and her best friend, Sandra, in his bed, in their bed. The betrayal didn't just hurt, it burned. It carved out something inside her chest and left her hollow. She looked at herself in the mirror, 26 years old, came to Korea with dreams, worked herself half to death as a personal assistant to the coldest man in Seoul, just to prove she belonged here. And for what? To be cheated on, replaced. Her reflection stared back, and she barely recognized the woman looking at her. So, she made a decision. The kind you make when your heart is shattered and your mind is screaming for anything to make the pain stop. Before I tell you how this all went so wrong, just hit that subscribe button. You're gonna want to see how this ends. Trust me. She went to the club. Not just any club. The kind her boss, Kang Min-jun, would fire her for even knowing existed. The kind where the music pounded like a second heartbeat, and the drinks kept coming until you forgot your own name. 2 hours later, Zeta was 3 shots past caring and dancing like the world owed her joy. Her natural hair, usually tied back professionally, fell in wild curls around her shoulders. Her dress, the one she'd bought for Michael, clung to curves he'd never appreciate again, and she didn't care. She didn't care about anything. Until she saw him, Kang Min-jun, her boss, the man who'd never smiled at her once in 2 years, the man whose cold stare could freeze grown men mid-sentence, standing at the bar like a dark prince surveying his kingdom. Her stomach dropped. Oh no, 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 no. She stumbled backward, nearly knocking over someone's drink. If he saw her here, drunk in this place, she was done. Fired, deported, ruined. She turned to run, pushing through the crowd, heels catching on the sticky floor, and ran straight into a wall of muscle. Hey, beautiful. The man's breath reeked of alcohol and cigarettes. His friends circled her like wolves. Where are you running to? Let me pass. Zeta tried to sound firm, but her words slurred slightly. Come on, baby. One drink. You look like you need company. His hand reached for her waist. She slapped it away. I said no. His smile vanished. His grip tightened on her arm, hard enough to bruise. You think you're too good for... Let her go. The voice cut through the music like a blade. Cold, absolute, terrifying. Kang Min-jun stood behind them, and even in the dim club lighting, his presence sucked the air from the room. He wasn't tall, built, or threatening in the obvious ways, but something in his eyes, that dead calm, made the man holding Zeta immediately release her. We were just talking, man. No harm. Walk away. Now. They walked away. Fast. Zeta stood frozen, swaying slightly, staring up at her boss. His sharp jaw was clenched. His black suit was immaculate despite the chaos around them, and his eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, were looking at her with something she'd never seen before. Concern? No. Anger. What the hell are you doing here? His Korean accent was thick, his English precise and cutting. I was just... She hiccuped. I was having fun. Fun? He stepped closer. This place? You call this fun? The alcohol made her bold, or maybe it was the heartbreak. What are you doing here then, judging me? His jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he'd fire her right there. Instead, he grabbed her arm, not roughly, but firmly. You're drunk. You're going home. I don't want to go home. She tried to pull away. I want to stay. I want to forget. Forget what? Everything. The word came out louder than she intended. People were starting to stare. I want to forget that I'm not enough. That I'll never be enough. Something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like recognition. Before she could say anything else, he was guiding her through the crowd, his hand on the small of her back, his body shielding her from the chaos. She should have protested, should have told him she could take care of herself. But she was so tired of being strong. They emerged into the cold soul night. Rain had started falling, soft and steady. His black car was already waiting, the driver holding the door open without a word. Get in. It wasn't a request. Zeta looked at him, rain making her vision blur. You're going to fire me. Tomorrow. Tonight. I'm making sure you don't get yourself killed. She laughed. It came out broken. Maybe that would be easier. His eyes snapped to hers. Don't. Something in his voice made her obey. She got in the car. The drive was silent, except for the rain against the windows. Zeta leaned her head back, eyes closed, trying to stop the world from spinning. She didn't notice when they didn't turn toward her apartment, didn't realize where they were going until the car stopped. She opened her eyes to see gates, tall, black, expensive gates opening to reveal a mansion that looked like it belonged in a movie. This isn't my place. Her words were slurred. No, it's mine. He was already out of the car, opening her door. Your apartment is in Itaewon. That's where your ex lives. You think I'm taking you there tonight? She blinked up at him. How do you know about Michael? I know everything about my employees. He offered his hand. Come. She took it. His hand was warm, strong, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she felt safe. Inside, his home was exactly what she expected, cold, Minimalist, expensive, glass and steel and dark wood, no photos, no warmth, just controlled perfection. He guided her to a leather couch. Sit, I'll get you water. But when he returned, she was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the Seoul skyline, tears streaming down her face. 4 years, she whispered. I gave him 4 years. Minjun set the water down slowly. The man who cheated? She nodded, not looking at him. My best friend too, Sandra. I introduced them. I trusted them both. He said nothing, just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching her. You probably think I'm pathetic. She laughed bitterly, crying over a man, getting drunk at a club, your assistant falling apart. No. She turned to look at him. No? I think, he said carefully. You loved someone who didn't deserve it. The words shouldn't have meant anything. They were simple, obvious even, but the way he said them, like he understood, like he'd felt the same pain, broke something inside her. Fresh tears fell. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll resign tomorrow. I know I'm unprofessional. Stop apologizing. He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. You're allowed to break sometimes. Are you? She looked up at him, mascara stained and vulnerable. Do you ever break, Mr. Kang? His expression flickered. For just a second, she saw it. The crack in his armour, the pain he carried. Every day. His voice was so quiet, she almost missed it. I break every day. The air between them shifted, charged, dangerous. Zeta didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was her, maybe it was him, maybe it was the alcohol, or the heartbreak, or the fact that they were both so tired of being strong. But suddenly his hand was on her cheek, gentle, hesitant, like he was touching something precious he might break. Tell me to stop. His voice was rough. She should have stepped back, called a cab, and gone home. This was her boss. This was insane. Instead, she whispered, Don't. He kissed her like he was drowning, and she was air. Not gentle, not sweet, desperate. Years of restraint shattering in one moment. She kissed him back with all the pain and anger and loneliness inside her, her hands fisted in his shirt, his fingers tangled in her hair. They stumbled backward, the couch, then the hallway, his bedroom door. Are you sure? He pulled back just enough to look at her, his eyes dark and searching. Zeta, are you sure? She pulled him closer. Make me forget. Just for tonight, make me forget everything. So he did. And for the first time in 3 years, since the accident that broke him, since the doctors told him he'd never feel this again, Kang Min-jun felt alive. Her skin was soft and warm under his hands. Every touch, every gasp, every whispered word brought him back to life. The curse that had haunted him, the medical impossibility, dissolved like it never existed. It wasn't just physical, it was something deeper, something that terrified him more than any business deal or rival ever could. Hours later, when the rain had stopped and Seoul began to wake up, they lay tangled in sheets that smelled like expensive detergent and sin. Zeta's head rested on his chest, his fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. Neither spoke. Words would make it real. Words would bring back the world they'd escaped. But as dawn light filtered through the curtains, reality crept back in anyway. What had they done? The next morning came too fast and too bright. Zeta woke first, her head pounding, mouth dry. For a confused moment, she didn't know where she was. Then the memories crashed back. The club, the fight, her boss. Oh God, her boss. She turned her head slowly. Kang Min-jun lay beside her, still asleep, his face softer without that cold mask he always wore. The sheet was low on his waist, exposing the lean muscles of his chest. the scar that ran along his ribs. Panic clawed up her throat. What had she done? She'd slept with her boss, her cold, powerful, untouchable boss. This was a disaster. This was career suicide. She needed to leave. Now, before he woke up and they had to face what happened. Carefully, quietly, she slipped out of bed. Her dress was crumpled on the floor, her shoes by the door. She dressed quickly, fingers fumbling with the zipper. One last look at him, sleeping peacefully, like the world wasn't ending. Then she ran. The mansion was a maze, but she found the front door, burst out into the morning air and ran down the long driveway in heels, past perfectly manicured gardens until she reached the street and flagged down a taxi. "Drive, just drive!" The driver gave her a strange look, a wet-eyed girl in a wrinkled club dress at 6 a.m. But he drove. Zeta pressed her forehead against the cool window and tried not to cry. Behind her, in that massive, empty mansion, Minjun woke to cold sheets and silence. He sat up slowly, running a hand through his hair, looking at the empty space beside him. She'd left. Of course she'd left. Something in his chest tightened, something unfamiliar and unwelcome. For 3 years, he'd felt nothing, absolutely nothing. His body had betrayed him, left him half a man, incomplete until last night. Last night, with her, he'd felt everything. And now she was gone. He should let her go, let her quit. Pretend it never happened. That's what logical men did, what smart men did. But Kang Min-jun had built an empire by taking what he wanted, and he wanted her. The office on Monday morning was torture. Zeta arrived early, practiced her resignation speech 12 times, and waited for him to call her in and fire her. But he didn't call. Hours passed. Her phone stayed silent. By lunch, she was a wreck. Maybe he hadn't woken up yet. Maybe he didn't remember. Maybe. Her phone buzzed. One message. "My office. Now." Her hands shook as she stood. This was it. The end of everything she'd worked for. She walked to his office like she was walking to her execution. Knocked twice. "Come in." He sat behind his desk, immaculate as always in a dark suit, expression unreadable. The cold CEO was back, like Saturday night never happened. "Close the door." She did. "Sit." She sat. The silence stretched. He just looked at her, those dark eyes revealing nothing. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. "I'll resign. I'll submit my letter today. I'm sorry for what happened. It was unprofessional and—" "Are you pregnant?" The words hit her like a slap. "What?" "We didn't use protection." He said it so calmly, like he was discussing a business merger. "Are you on birth control?" Her face burned. No. I mean, Michael and we weren't—" She stopped. "It was just one time. The chances are not 0. He leaned back. "If there are consequences, I'll take responsibility." Responsibility? Anger flared through her embarrassment. "Is that what I am? A consequence? That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" She stood up. "That you'll pay me off? Buy my—" "Silence! Make me sign an NDA." "I meant—" His voice was sharp now, controlled anger leaking through, "that I don't abandon my responsibilities. I'm not your responsibility. Saturday night was a mistake. We were both drunk and hurt and—" "I wasn't drunk." She froze. He stood slowly, moving around the desk. "I had one drink. Hours before you arrived, I was completely sober." Her heart pounded. "Then why—" "Because I wanted to." He stopped in front of her. Close. Too close. "I wanted you, and I don't regret it." The confession hung in the air between them, dangerous and electric. Before she could respond, before she could process what he just said, his office door burst open. A woman strode in, beautiful, Korean, expensive clothes and cold eyes. She looked at Min-jun like she owned him. Darling, we need to talk about the wedding. She stopped when she saw Zeta. Her eyes narrowed. Who is this? Min-jun's expression went completely blank. My assistant. The woman looked Zeta up and down with obvious disdain. Your assistant, of course. She turned back to Min-jun, switching to Korean. Whatever she said made his jaw clench. Zeta stood there feeling like an intruder, feeling stupid, feeling used. Wedding. He'd said wedding. The woman left as dramatically as she'd entered, throwing Zeta one more disgusted look on her way out. Zeta turned to Min-jun slowly. Wedding, he sighed. It's complicated. Complicated? You're engaged? It's arranged. Business. It doesn't mean anything? She laughed bitterly. God, I'm so stupid. You're just like him. Just like Michael. Using me when it's convenient. Don't compare me to him. His voice was dangerous now. Why not? You're worse. At least Michael had the decency to not pretend this meant something. She grabbed her tablet, hands shaking. I'll have my resignation on your desk by the end of the day. Zeta, don't. She looked at him, tears threatening. Don't say my name, like it means something when it doesn't. She walked out. This time, he didn't stop her. But as the door closed behind her, Min-jun's hand clenched into a fist on his desk. She didn't understand. The engagement wasn't real. It was a business arrangement his family forced on him years ago. A merger of empires. Nothing more. He didn't love Ji-won. He'd never loved anyone. Until Saturday night. Until a broken Nigerian woman with tear-stained cheeks made him feel human again. And now she was walking away, thinking he'd used her. He reached for his phone, find everything about her ex-boyfriend, Michael. Everything. I want to know what he eats for breakfast. If someone had hurt her badly enough to send her into his arms, he'd make sure they paid. Because Kang Min-jun didn't forgive, he didn't forget, and he protected what was his, even if she didn't know she was his yet. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of Zeta avoiding him, of terse emails and cold professionalism. 3 weeks of Min-jun watching her like a hawk, noting every time she touched her stomach, every time she looked pale. 3 weeks of torture. Then came the morning she rushed out of a meeting to throw up in the bathroom. Min-jun found her sitting on the floor of the executive washroom, pale and shaking. Get out! Her voice was weak. Instead, he knelt beside her. You're pregnant. It wasn't a question. She looked at him with exhausted eyes. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Take a test. I'm scared. The admission, so raw and honest, broke something in him. He reached out slowly, cupping her face. Whatever it says, I'm here. You're engaged. I'll break it. You can't just watch me. His thumb brushed her cheek. I don't care about business arrangements. I don't care about my family's expectations. The only thing I care about is you. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't mean that. Test me. They stared at each other in that bathroom, the air thick with possibility and fear and something that felt dangerous like hope. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went white. What? She showed him the screen. A message from an unknown number. Just a photo. Min-jun and Zeta. Leaving his house that morning 3 weeks ago. The photo was grainy but clear enough. Below it. Does his fiancée know he's sleeping with the help? Who sent this? Min-jun's voice was deadly quiet. Another message came through. Be smart. Leave him. Or everyone sees these photos. Your boss, your family, the press. Your visa gets revoked. You disappear. Zeta's hands shook. Someone knows. Someone saw us. Min-jun was already on his phone, making calls in rapid Korean. But Zeta wasn't listening. All she could think was, this was happening again. Another man, Another scandal, another betrayal. She couldn't do this, couldn't be the other woman, couldn't destroy his life and hers. She stood up slowly. I have to go. What? No. Let me handle this. Handle it? She backed away. There's nothing to handle. This was a mistake. All of it. Don't do this. I'm sorry. She was crying now. I can't be that person. I can't be the secret, the scandal, the mistake. She ran before he could stop her, and this time, when Min-jun tried to follow, his head of security stopped him. Sir, we have a situation. Your father knows. He's on his way here. Min-jun's blood ran cold. His father, the man who controlled everything, the man who'd arranged the engagement, the man who'd destroy anyone who threatened the family legacy. If his father found Zeta before he could protect her, he pushed past his security and ran. But by the time he reached the lobby, she was gone, and his father was walking through the front doors, face like thunder. We need to talk about your assistant. The words were calm, but Min-jun knew his father, knew what that tone meant. Zeta was in danger, and he'd just let her walk away, alone. If you think Zeta made the right choice, drop a comment below. And if you want to know what Min-jun's father does next, subscribe, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. This is just the beginning. 3 years. 3 years since Zeta vanished from Seoul like she'd never existed. 3 years since Kang Min-jun stood in that lobby, watching his father's cold eyes and knowing he'd lost her. That day, his father had been direct. The girl is gone. I made sure of it. Her visa was revoked. She's back in Nigeria. And if you're smart, you'll forget she ever existed. Min-jun had torn his office apart, thrown chairs, shattered glass, called in every favour, every contact, every resource he had. But his father was more powerful, more connected, more ruthless. Zeta had disappeared completely. No social media, no phone number, no forwarding address, like a ghost. For 6 months, he searched, hired the best investigators, flew to Lagos twice, found nothing. His father watched him spiral with cold satisfaction. This is what happens when you forget your place. Marry Ji-won, strengthen the family. That assistant was a distraction, nothing more. But she wasn't nothing. She was everything. The engagement to Ji-won continued. A business arrangement both of them hated. She had a lover in Paris. He had a ghost in Nigeria. They barely spoke. Min-jun threw himself into work, built his empire bigger, became colder, more ruthless. The warmth Zeta had awakened in him froze over, harder than before. His employees whispered about the change. The CEO had always been cold. Now he was ice. At night, alone in that massive mansion, he'd stand by the same window where she'd cried and wonder if she thought about him, if she hated him, if she'd moved on, if she'd been pregnant. That thought haunted him most, the possibility that somewhere in the world he had a child he'd never meet, a piece of her he'd never know. He'd failed her, failed to protect her, failed to choose her over his family's expectations, and he lived with that failure every single day. Until the night everything changed. Seoul's winter was brutal. Snow fell in thick sheets, covering the city in white silence. Min-jun sat in his car outside a charity gala his father had forced him to attend. Another performance, another night of pretending his life wasn't empty. He was about to get out when he saw her. At first, he thought he was hallucinating. That exhaustion and obsession had finally broken his mind, because there, walking toward the hotel entrance in a red dress that made her dark skin glow like warm honey, was Zeta. Her hair was different, longer, styled in elegant braids that fell past her shoulders. She looked more mature, more confident, more beautiful than he remembered. and holding each of her hands were two small children, identical, boys, maybe 2, almost 3 years old, wearing matching little suits and looking around with wide, curious eyes that were unmistakably his, the same dark brown, the same shape. Even from a distance, even in the snow, he could see it. His heart stopped, then started again, pounding so hard he thought his chest might explode. She was here, she was alive, and she had his children. Minjun was out of the car before he could think, snow crunching under his expensive shoes, not caring about the cold or the people around them. Zeta. Her name came out rough, desperate, a prayer. She froze. Her entire body went rigid. Slowly, so slowly, she turned. Their eyes met across the snowy courtyard, and time collapsed. 3 years vanished. All the pain, all the searching, all the loneliness crashed between them in a single look. Her face went through a dozen emotions in seconds. Shock, fear, anger, something that might have been longing, then cold, hard resolve. She pulled her children closer. Boys, stay with Mommy. Mommy. The word hit him like a physical blow. He moved closer, unable to stop himself. His eyes kept darting to the twins. They were perfect, beautiful. They had her smile and his eyes, and he couldn't breathe. Zeta, Mr. Kang. Her voice was ice, formal, like they were strangers. What a surprise. Mr. Kang, not Min Jun, not even his first name. Like the intimacy they'd shared never existed. We need to talk. No, we don't. She started walking, ushering the boys toward the hotel. He followed. Those children are none of your business. She didn't look at him. Please, leave us alone. One of the twins looked up at Minjun with curious eyes. Mommy, who is that man? No one, baby. Keep walking. No one. The word cut deeper than any knife. They reached the hotel entrance. She was about to go inside when he caught her arm, gently, desperately. Don't do this. Don't walk away again. She finally looked at him, really looked at him, and what he saw in her eyes destroyed him. Not hate, worse, indifference. I walked away 3 years ago, Mr. Kang. You let me go. Remember? I didn't let you go. My father, your family, your engagement, your choice. She pulled her arm free. I have a life now, a good life, and you're not part of it. Those boys are my sons. The words hung in the frozen air between them. Her jaw tightened. Prove it. Before he could respond, a man approached. Tall, Nigerian, handsome. He put his hand on Zeta's lower back with easy familiarity. Everything okay, babe? Babe. Minjun's hands clenched into fists. Zeta smiled at the man. Actually, smiled. Everything's fine, David. This is my old boss. We were just catching up. Old boss, like he meant nothing, like they'd never meant anything. David extended his hand. David Okafor. Nice to meet you. Minjun looked at the hand like it were a snake. Didn't shake it. David's smile faltered. He looked at Zeta questioningly. She grabbed David's hand. We should go. The gala is starting. They walked away. The twins chattered happily. David's hand was still on her back. Zeta not looking back once. Minjun stood in the snow, watching his entire world walk away from him for the second time. But this time, he wasn't letting her go. This time, he was going to fight. Inside the gala, Zeta's hands shook as she grabbed a champagne glass she wouldn't drink. Her heart pounded so hard, she thought everyone could hear it. He was here. After 3 years, Kang Min-jun was here, and he'd seen the boys. You okay? David touched her shoulder. That man looked at you like, it's nothing. She forced a smile. Just an old employer, ancient history. But it wasn't ancient history. It was raw and present and terrifying. The twins played nearby with the hotel's childcare staff, safe and happy and completely unaware that their entire world might be about to explode. She'd worked so hard to build this life. Came back to Seoul 6 months ago for a job she couldn't refuse. Senior designer at one of Korea's top firms. Good money, stability, a chance to give her sons everything. David had been a friend from the Nigerian community. Kind, stable, interested in more than friendship. She'd kept him at arm's length, unable to let anyone in after Minjun destroyed her. But she'd never told anyone about the twins' father, never told anyone about that night that changed everything. And now, he knew. Across the ballroom, Minjun couldn't take his eyes off her. She was radiant in that red dress, laughing at something David said, playing the role of a woman who'd moved on. But he knew her, knew the way she bit her lip when she was nervous, knew the way she touched her neck when she was lying. She hadn't moved on. She was just better at hiding now. His phone buzzed, a text from his head of security. The woman is Zeta Okonkwo, returned to Seoul 6 months ago, works at Genesis Design, lives in Gangnam. The children are registered as Kian and Kai. Birth certificates list father as unknown, unknown. She'd listed him as unknown. Another text, the man is David Okafor, childhood friend. No romantic relationship on record. He's been courting her for 3 months. Courting her, some other man was trying to take his family. Not happening. Minjun was making his way across the ballroom when his father appeared, as if summoned by Minjun's worst nightmare. She's back. His father's voice was cold. I thought I made myself clear 3 years ago. You had no right. I had every right. You were jeopardizing everything for some foreign girl. His father's eyes were hard. Send her away again, or I will. Touch her, and I'll destroy you. His father's eyebrows rose. In all of Minjun's 35 years, he'd never directly threatened his father, never challenged him. You'd choose her over your family, your empire, in a heartbeat. They stared at each other, a decade of tension and control and unspoken resentment crackling between them. Finally, his father smiled. It wasn't pleasant. Then you're a fool. That woman will be your downfall. Maybe, but she'll be mine. His father walked away, and Minjun knew he'd just declared war on the most powerful man in Seoul. Worth it. He turned back toward Zeta, but she was gone. The twins were gone. David was gone. She'd run again. Not this time. He was out the door in seconds, scanning the snowy streets. There, her red dress flashing as she ushered the twins into a taxi. He ran. Actually ran through the snow like a madman, his expensive suit getting soaked, people staring. He reached the taxi just as it was pulling away, slammed his hand on the roof. The driver stopped, cursing in Korean. Minjun yanked open the door. Zeta stared at him, eyes wide. Get out of this car! Excuse me. Her shock turned to anger. You can't just... We're talking. Tonight. Now. We have nothing to talk about. We have everything to talk about. He looked at the twins, sleeping against her. Please, just give me 1 hour. No. Then I'll follow this taxi. I'll show up at your apartment. I'll be at your office tomorrow. I'll make it impossible for you to avoid me. His voice broke. I've spent 3 years looking for you. I'm not letting you disappear again. She stared at him. Something in his desperation, his raw need, cracked her armour just slightly. 1 hour? But not tonight. The boys need to sleep. She gave him an address. Tomorrow, noon, my office, and then you leave us alone. Deal. It was a lie. He'd never leave her alone again. But she didn't need to know that yet. Minjun didn't sleep. Couldn't. He spent the night having his team compile every piece of information they could find on Zeta's life. not to manipulate her, to understand, to know what he'd missed. Subscribe if you want to know what happened when he found out what she did, because that's where things got complicated. She'd gone back to Nigeria, lived with her mother, given birth alone, raised the twins with no help from anyone. Her ex, Michael, had tried to contact her when he found out. She'd blocked him. She'd struggled, worked multiple jobs, but she'd made it work. Then, 6 months ago, Genesis Design offered her a senior position in Seoul. She'd taken the risk, come back with the twins, started over. She was strong, stronger than anyone he'd ever known, and he'd let her face it all alone. The guilt ate at him. At noon, he stood outside Genesis Design, snow still falling softly. He'd brought flowers, then threw them away. Too cliché, too insufficient. You couldn't apologise for 3 years with flowers. Zeta met him in a conference room. She wore a professional navy dress and heels. Her natural hair was pulled back. She looked every inch the successful designer she'd become. Nothing like the broken girl who'd cried in his bathroom. You have 1 hour. She sat across from him, arms crossed. Talk. Where did he even start? How did you compress 3 years of regret into 60 minutes? I'm sorry, she laughed. It was bitter. Sorry, that's it? Sorry that I didn't fight for you. Sorry that I let my father intimidate me. Sorry that I didn't find you before you had to do this alone. He leaned forward. Sorry that I was a coward. Something flickered in her eyes. You were engaged. I never loved her. It was arranged. A business merger. She didn't love me either. We broke it off a year ago. Zeta blinked. What? I told my father I wouldn't marry Jiwon. He cut me off, removed me from the company board, tried to destroy me. Minjun smiled grimly. I built my own empire instead. Bigger than his. I'm not the man I was 3 years ago. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that I chose you. Too late, maybe, but I chose you. She looked away, and he saw her throat work, saw her fighting emotion. The boys, he said softly. Kian and Kai, they're mine. It wasn't a question. She nodded slowly. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you? Her voice rose. How? Your father had me deported. My phone was disconnected. I had no way to reach you, and even if I did, what would I say? Hey, remember that night you regretted? Well, you're going to be a father. You had a fiancé, a life. I wasn't going to trap you. Trap me. Zeta, you gave me the only good thing in my life. You don't even know them. Then let me. He reached across the table. She pulled back. Please, let me know my sons. She stood up abruptly, pacing. You can't just walk back into my life because it's convenient now. I built something here. The boys are happy, stable. I won't let you disrupt that. I don't want to disrupt it. I want to be part of it. Why? Guilt? Duty? Some misplaced sense of responsibility? Because I love you. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Zeta froze, stared at him. What? He stood slowly. I love you. I've loved you since that night 3 years ago, when you made me feel human for the first time in my life. I loved you when you left. I loved you when I couldn't find you. I loved you every single day for 3 years. He took a step closer. And seeing you last night, seeing our sons, didn't change that. It just confirmed what I already knew. You're mine, Zeta. You've always been mine. Tears welled in her eyes. You can't just say that. Why not? It's true. Because I can't trust you. The words burst out of her. You broke me, Minjun. You let your family destroy us. You let me leave pregnant and alone. How am I supposed to trust that you won't do it again? You're right. You can't trust my words. He pulled something from his jacket, a thick folder, set it on the table. So trust this. She opened it slowly. Her eyes widened. Legal documents, transferring half his assets to her name, establishing a trust for the twins, custody agreements giving her full control, medical insurance, education funds, everything. What is this? Proof. If I ever hurt you again, if I ever let anyone hurt you, you take everything. The boys are protected. You're protected. You hold all the power. She stared at the papers like they might explode. This is insane. This is the only way I know how to prove I'm serious. He moved closer, close enough to see the tears on her lashes. I'm not asking you to love me back. I know I don't deserve that, but let me be their father. Let me be in their lives. Let me prove I've changed. And if I say no, then I'll respect it. I'll set up a fund for the boys. I'll stay away. But I'll never stop loving you. The silence stretched. Zeta looked at the papers, then at him, then at the window where snow fell softly over Seoul. Finally, she whispered, "They ask about their father sometimes. I didn't know what to tell them." His heart clenched. What did you say? That he lived far away, that he didn't know about them, that it wasn't their fault. A tear rolled down her cheek. I never wanted them to feel unwanted. They're not unwanted. They're everything. She looked at him then, really looked at him, searching his face for lies, for manipulation, for any sign of the man who'd let her go. But Min-jun met her gaze steadily, openly, nothing to hide. "One chance," she finally said. "You get one chance. You meet them properly. You show up, you be consistent, and the second you let them down, the second you make them feel less than enough, we're done. Forever. Deal. I'm not promising anything between us. I know. David is still in the picture." That hurt, but he nodded. "I understand." She picked up the folder, held it against her chest like armour. "They're at daycare until 5. You can meet them properly this weekend. Saturday. My apartment. 10 a.m. I'll be there." She walked to the door, then paused. "Min-jun?" "Yes." "Don't break their hearts. I'll forgive a lot, but I won't forgive that." Then she was gone. Min-jun stood in that conference room, snow falling outside, and for the first time in 3 years, he felt something like hope. Saturday morning, Min-jun stood outside Zeta's apartment at 9:45 a.m. He'd been there since 9:30, too nervous to knock early, too desperate to be late. He'd barely slept, kept thinking about what he'd say, how he'd act. What if the twins hated him? What if they were scared of him? What if he were a terrible father? At exactly 10 wons, he knocked. Zeta opened the door. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no makeup, hair in a messy bun. She looked young and vulnerable, and so beautiful it hurt. "You're on time. I'm always on time for things that matter." Something flickered across her face. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." Her apartment was small compared to his mansion, but it was warm, lived in. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys were scattered across the living room. It smelled like breakfast and safety and home. Everything his mansion had never been. "Boys," Zeta called. "Come here, please." 2 identical faces peeked around the corner. Dark hair, wide eyes, so small and perfect. Min-jun's chest tightened. "Kian, Kai, this is Mr. Kang. He's an old friend of Mummy's." The twins looked at him with curiosity and caution. Min-jun knelt down slowly, making himself smaller, less intimidating. "Hi, hi," they said in unison. "I brought you something." He pulled out 2 wrapped boxes from his bag. Their eyes lit up. "Presents?" Zeta shot him a look. "You don't have to buy their affection. I'm not buying it. I'm earning it." The twins tore into the presents. Inside were custom-made storybooks. The Adventures of Kian and Kai, with illustrations showing two boys who looked exactly like them, having adventures in Korea and Nigeria. "Mommy, look, it's us!" Kai held up the book, grinning. Zeta's eyes widened. "You made these?" "I had them made. I wanted them to see themselves as heroes." He looked at her, both parts of them, Korean and Nigerian. Something in her expression softened, just a fraction. The morning was careful, cautious. Minjun read the books to the twins. They warmed up slowly, asking questions, climbing on the couch near him. Eventually one of them leaned against his arm. The touch, so small and trusting, nearly broke him. At lunch, Kai looked up at him with sauce on his face. "Are you rich?" "Kai," Zeta was mortified. Minjun laughed. Actually laughed. "Yes." "Do you have a big house?" "Very big." "Bigger than Mommy's?" "Much bigger." Kian frowned. "That's not fair. Mommy works hard. She should have a big house too." Minjun looked at Zeta. She was studiously avoiding his gaze. "You're right. Your mommy deserves everything." The afternoon melted into evening. The twins showed him their room, their drawings, their favourite toys. They told him about daycare and their friends, and how Mommy sometimes cried at night, but said it was just allergies. That last part was said innocently, but it gutted him. When he finally had to leave, Kai grabbed his hand. "Will you come back?" "If your mummy says it's okay." Both twins looked at Zeta with pleading eyes. She sighed. "We'll see." At the door, Minjun turned to her. "Thank you for today, for letting me meet them, for everything." "Don't thank me yet. This is the easy part." "What's the hard part?" "Being consistent, showing up, not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard." She crossed her arms. "Talk is cheap, Minjun. Action is what matters. Then watch me act." Over the next month, Minjun proved himself. He showed up every Saturday, then twice a week, then whenever Zeta needed help. Never pushy, never demanding, just present. He learned their favourite foods, helped with bedtime, and attended a daycare recital where Kai forgot his lines and cried, and Minjun comforted him afterward like he'd been doing it for years. The twins fell in love with him, started calling him Mr. Min, then just Min. Then one night Kian asked, "Why don't we have a daddy like other kids?" Zeta had frozen, not knowing how to answer. Minjun knelt down. "You do have a daddy. If your mommy says it's okay, I'd like to be that person." Two pairs of eyes went wide. "You?" "Me, if you want me." "Do we, Mommy?" Kai looked up at Zeta. "Do we want him?" Everyone looked at her, the twins, Minjun, the whole world holding its breath. Zeta's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Minjun, really looked at him, and saw it. The change, the consistency, the love. "Yes," she whispered, "we want him." The twins cheered, launched themselves at Minjun. He caught them, holding both his sons for the first time as their father, and met Zeta's eyes over their heads. "Thank you," he mouthed. But that night, after the boys were asleep, reality crashed back in. Zeta's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered hesitantly. "Zeta Okonkwo." "Yes." "This is Attorney Park. I represent the Kang family. Mr. Kang Sr. is filing for custody of Kian and Kai. You'll be served papers tomorrow." The phone fell from her hand. Minjun saw her face go white. "What happened?" "Your father. He's suing for custody." The world stopped. "He's what?" She showed him the call log. Minjun was already dialing his phone, speaking rapid, angry Korean. But when he hung up, his face was grim. "My father claims you're an unfit mother, that you've kept his grandchildren from him, that you're using them to trap me for money. That's insane. He has lawyers, money, power. He could drag this out for years." Minjun paced. "He's doing this to punish me, to make me fall in line." Then do it. Fall in line. I won't let your family drama destroy my sons. She was crying now, angry and terrified. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world is poison. I won't let him take them. You can't stop him. He's too powerful. You said it yourself. She sank onto the couch. I should have never let you back in. Should have kept running. No. Minjun knelt in front of her. I'm ending this. Tonight. How? He pulled out his phone, made a call. When he spoke, his voice was cold and deadly. Father, we need to talk. Your office. 1 hour. He hung up and looked at Zeta. Stay here with the boys. Lock the doors. I'll handle this. What are you going to do? What I should have done 3 years ago. Choose you over everything. The Kang family headquarters was dark when Minjun arrived. Just his father's office lit up on the top floor like a throne room. Minjun didn't knock, just walked in. His father sat behind his massive desk, drink in hand. You came. Drop the custody suit. No. Drop it, or I release everything. His father's eyes narrowed. Everything. Every illegal deal. Every bribe. Every body buried. I've spent 3 years collecting evidence, insurance. I drop it to the press, and you're done. You destroy the family name. To protect my sons, absolutely. They stared at each other. A lifetime of tension between them. His father smiled coldly. You always were weak. Your mother made you soft. My mother made me human. Something you've never been. If you do this, you'll have nothing. No family, no empire, nothing. I'll have them. That's enough. For the first time in his life, Minjun saw doubt in his father's eyes. Why her? What makes this foreign woman worth losing? Everything. Because she sees me. Not my money. Not my name. Me. Minjun stepped closer. You spent your whole life accumulating power, and you're still empty. I'd rather have one real thing than 1,000 hollow victories. His father was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. The custody suit will be dropped. His father poured another drink. But I want nothing to do with you. Or those children. You're on your own. Good. Minjun walked out. Didn't look back. When he got to Zeta's apartment, she was pacing, phone in hand. She spun when he entered. Well, it's over. He's dropping the suit. She sagged with relief. How? I cut ties completely. No more family, no more empire. Just me. He took her hands. Just us. Minjun, you can't just... I already did. My father's company, my inheritance, all of it. Gone. I have my own businesses. We'll be fine. More than fine. You gave up everything for us. No. He cupped her face. I gave up nothing for everything. Tears streamed down her face. You're insane. Probably. He smiled. But I'm yours if you'll have me. She looked at him. This man who'd broken her, who'd let her go, who'd spent 3 years searching, who'd just sacrificed his entire world for her and their sons. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. What if we mess this up? Then we mess it up together. She laughed through her tears. You're really not going anywhere. Never again. You're stuck with me for life, if you want me. And finally, Zeta let herself believe it. Let herself trust. Let herself fall. Yes, I want you. I've always wanted you. He kissed her then, soft and desperate and full of 3 years of longing. She kissed him back, hands fisting in his shirt, tears and laughter mixing. From their bedroom, they heard a small voice. Are you kissing our mommy? They broke apart to find 2 small boys staring at them, matching grins on their faces. Yes, Minjun said. Is that okay? Does that mean you're staying forever? Kai asked. If your mommy says yes. Both twins looked at Zeta, waiting, She looked at Minjun, at their sons, at the family she'd thought she'd never have. Yes, he's staying forever. The twins cheered, ran to them. Minjun scooped them both up, and Zeta wrapped her arms around all three of her boys, and for the first time in 3 years, Minjun felt complete. 6 months later, Seoul was covered in cherry blossoms. Pink petals floated through the air like blessings. Minjun stood at the altar in a small garden ceremony, just close friends. No press, no spectacle, just real. Zeta walked toward him in a white dress that honoured both her cultures, Nigerian patterns embroidered on Korean silk. Her mother cried in the front row. David, now genuinely just a friend, gave her away with a smile. The twins stood as ring-bearers, looking adorable in tiny suits and completely stealing the show when Zeta reached the altar. Minjun took her hands. I wrote vows, he said, but they're inadequate. Try anyway. Zeta, you made me human when I was a ghost. You gave me sons when I thought I'd destroyed everything. You gave me a family when I'd given up on one. His voice broke. I don't deserve you, but I'll spend every day earning you. She was crying. You already have. You chose us. That's enough. It's not enough. It'll never be enough, but I'll try anyway. They exchanged rings, kissed to cheers and applause, and as cherry blossoms fell around them, as their sons ran circles around their legs, as friends and family celebrated, Minjun pulled Zeta close and whispered, No more running. She smiled against his lips. No more running. We're home. And they were. That evening, at the reception, Minjun's phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. He opened it and froze. A photo, his father in a hospital bed, looking old and small and very sick. Below it, he's dying. Wants to meet his grandsons before he goes. His choice. No pressure. Attorney Park, Minjun, showed Zeta. She read it slowly. What do you want to do? She asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to ignore it. Let him die alone like he deserves. He looked at their sons, dancing with other children. But I don't want them to grow up with my bitterness, to have the same relationship with me that I had with him. Zeta squeezed his hand. Then we break the cycle. We let them meet him, once, and we do it together. You'd really do that, after everything he did to you. I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for our sons, and for you. 2 days later, they stood in a private hospital room. His father looked small in the bed, machines beeping, life leaving him slowly. The twins held back, shy and uncertain. His father's eyes landed on them. For a long moment, he just stared. Then tears, actual tears, rolled down his weathered face. They look like you when you were young. They're better than I ever was. His father nodded slowly. I was wrong. About her, about you, about everything. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, because I'm not there yet. His father's eyes moved to Zeta. Take care of him. He's stubborn. She smiled slightly. I know. And thank you for the grandsons I don't deserve. They stayed for 30 minutes. The twins warmed up slightly, showing their grandfather drawings. He listened like it was the most important presentation of his life. When they left, his father called out weakly, Minjun. He paused at the door. You were right. She makes you human. I wish I'd found someone who did that for me. Minjun nodded, said nothing, left. In the hallway, Zeta took his hand. You okay? Yeah, I think I am. He looked down at their sons. I'm more than okay. I have everything that matters. She smiled. Yeah, you do. His father died 3 days later, and Minjun went to the funeral feeling nothing. Not hate, not grief, just a distant sadness for the relationship they Never had. But when he came home to Zeta making dinner, to his sons arguing over a toy, to chaos and laughter and mess, he felt everything that mattered: love, family, and home. 2 years passed in beautiful normalcy until the morning Zeta woke up at 2 a.m. in a pool of blood. Min-jun! Her scream tore through the house, and he was up instantly, calling ambulances and waking the twins while his hands shook as he held her. At the hospital, the doctor's face was grave as she delivered the news. The pregnancy is high risk with placenta previa, which means complete bed rest is required, and Mrs. Kang, your blood pressure is dangerously elevated. She paused, her expression heavy with concern. If complications arise, you might have to choose between the baby and your wife. Zeta started crying, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I can't lose my baby." Min-jun froze, his heart stopping. He held her while she sobbed, his own heart breaking into pieces he didn't know how to put back together. 4 months of bed rest followed. 4 months of terror, with weekly monitoring, rising blood pressure, and a baby struggling to thrive. At 7 months, Zeta woke up screaming as more blood pooled beneath her, and the doctors rushed her in for an emergency C-section. "We need to deliver now, because the baby's in distress, and your wife could stroke out, which means we might lose them both," the surgeon said with urgent finality. "Save her," Min-jun said without hesitation, his voice firm despite his terror. "No," Zeta grabbed his hand desperately. "Promise me you'll save the baby." "I can't lose you. Promise me," she demanded, and he nodded, unable to speak, as they wheeled her away to surgery. 3 hours of hell passed with the twins sitting silent and terrified beside him, while Min-jun prayed to gods he didn't believe in. When the surgeon finally emerged, she said, "Your wife is alive, and your daughter is in NICU at 4 pounds, but she's fighting." They both survived, barely, and Jessica spent 6 weeks in NICU before they brought her home. Tiny, perfect, and nothing short of a miracle. For 3 months, life was beautiful. But then, the email arrived. The subject line read, "You need to see this." And inside were photos of Zeta leaving his mansion 8 years ago, him at the hospital when the twins were born, and recent shots of his family at the park. The message was clear: 50 million won, or everyone knows your secret. 48 hours. Min-jun traced the IP address, discovering it came from inside his company, and when he arrived at the meeting point, Ji-won was waiting, his ex-fiancé standing there with a cold smile. "Hello, Min-jun," she said with icy satisfaction. "Surprised? You're blackmailing me?" he asked, unable to believe what was happening. "You humiliated me when you broke our engagement for some assistant and made me a joke in our social circle," she said, her eyes hardening with years of resentment. "Did you think there wouldn't be consequences?" "That was 8 years ago," he replied, trying to understand her obsession. "And I've been documenting everything since then, waiting for the right moment," she said, holding up her phone threateningly. "Pay me, or the world knows Korea's most eligible CEO has a secret family. And can you imagine the racism Zeta will face and what your children will go through?" Something inside Min-jun snapped as he realized she'd miscalculated everything. "You made a mistake, Ji-won." "What mistake?" she asked, her confidence wavering slightly. "Assuming I still care about scandal," he said, stepping closer with deadly calm. "Release the photos and go to the press, because I don't care. We'll tell our story ourselves, and the truth is actually beautiful." Her confidence crumbled further, and he continued, "Here's what happens if you do this." He showed her his phone with photos of her with other men during her engagement. "I sue you for stalking, ruin your reputation, and destroy your new engagement. Your choice." The silence stretched between them until finally, she laughed bitterly. "You really love her? More than anything?" he confirmed without hesitation. Fine, you win, she conceded. Transferring the files and signing the documents before leaving, Min-jun stood there with his hands shaking as he called Zeta. It's over. But that night, another message arrived from an unknown number. A photo of Zeta and the kids at the park with text that read, G1 wasn't the only one watching, but I'm not interested in money. See you soon. We have unfinished business. Min-jun stared at the message, his blood running cold, as he realized the nightmare wasn't over. He increased security, hired bodyguards, and installed cameras without telling Zeta why, and 6 months passed in tense normalcy until one night, when glass shattered from multiple windows simultaneously, 3 masked men burst into his office, and when the leader removed his mask, Min-jun's world tilted because it was Michael, Zeta's ex-boyfriend. Surprised? Did you think I'd just disappear and let you steal my life? Michael asked, his eyes dead and empty. Those kids should have been mine, and that family should have been mine. You're insane, Min-jun said, backing away slowly. No, I'm owed, and the only way to get her back is to remove you, Michael replied, as he rushed at him and tried to strangle him. Everything happened fast, but security burst in. Michael was dragged away as he kept on screaming threats. Min-jun ran upstairs and found Zeta barricaded with the children, phone pressed to emergency services. She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. What the hell is happening? He held them all tightly. It's over. I promise. 1 week later, Michael was in custody, charged with attempted murder and stalking as years of obsession were revealed. But that night, Zeta confronted Min-jun about everything he'd been hiding. You knew about that message 6 months ago, and you've been living in fear without telling me, she said, her voice cracking. Why? I was trying to protect you, he explained weakly. By lying. We promised no more secrets, she said as tears fell. How can we build a life if you don't trust me with the truth? He told her everything. The photos, the threats, the 6 months of terror he'd carried alone. When he finished, she took his face in her hands with understanding but firm resolve. I know you were trying to protect us, but you can't carry everything alone because we're partners and we face everything together. No more secrets. Deal. Deal. He agreed. And they rebuilt trust, one honest breath at a time. 6 months later, Min-jun sold his company and walked away from billions. And when Zeta asked what he would do, he said, teach, be present, take the twins to school, and be a father. They moved to a coastal city that was smaller and quieter, where the twins could run on beaches, and Jessica could grow up breathing sea air instead of Seoul's pollution. One evening, Zeta found Min-jun on the balcony watching the waves, and she asked, What are you thinking? That we survived everything. Poverty, prejudice, blackmail, attempted murder, he said, pulling her close. We're either indestructible or incredibly stubborn. Both, she smiled. Do you ever regret that night at the club? Never, because even the bad parts taught us how to fight and how to love when it's hard, he replied. Inside, the twins argued over homework while Jessica banged on a toy piano. Chaos, mess and perfection all rolled into one. Min-jun's phone buzzed, but he ignored it, and when Zeta asked, Aren't you going to check that? He replied, No, because whatever it is can wait, and right now, all that matters is this moment. They went inside for dinner, baths, and bedtime stories, and later, when everyone slept peacefully, Min-jun finally checked his phone to find a message from his attorney confirming that Michael had been sentenced to 5 years without parole. He stared at the message before looking at his sleeping family, everything he loved and everything he'd fought to protect. Justice had finally been served, and for the first time in years, Min-jun felt the weight of fear lift from his shoulders. He deleted the message, turned off his phone, and climbed into bed as Zeta reached for him in her sleep, mumbling, "Everything okay? Everything's perfect," he whispered. And this time, he meant it completely. The threats were gone, the battles were won. And what remained was simply this, a family built from broken pieces, stronger for every storm they'd weathered together. Min-jun held his wife closer, listened to his children breathing in the next room, and smiled because he'd finally learned that true power wasn't measured in empires or wealth. It was measured in moments like these, in love that refused to break, and in the beautiful, ordinary miracle of coming home. If you're the type who loves a good forbidden romance train wreck, you're my people. Subscribe and check out my channel for more intriguing stories just like this one.